Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out this afternoon. This morning in the keynotes, you heard a lot about Citrix Workspace, a lot about the new intelligence capabilities that are going in there, about user efficiency. We're trying to drive towards efficiency because we want people to be more productive. Saving 1 day per week, I think was David Henshall's mantra this morning. And we also heard a lot about Citrix Analytics. But in this session, really what we want to focus on is analytics that you get in Workspace today. So there's a lot of goodness that's coming from Citrix around intelligence and all that productivity stuff. But there's a lot of goodness that's in Citrix Workspace today that many of you may not be that familiar with, or you are and you're not necessarily using it that much. So in this session, we want to really hone in on Citrix Analytics and talk about that. I'm Blake Cannell. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Citrix Analytics. And joining me on stage is Amandeep.
Amandeep Nagra, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Workspace Services. Glad to be here with you guys today.
So Amandeep does a lot of technical...
Yes, a lot of workspace, technical videos, market research, analyst meetings and content creation. Lots of different things.
So all the good content coming from Aman here in this session. Before we dive in, just a couple of logistics. If you at all, at any point during this session, feel nauseated by the sound of my voice, this room conveniently has 2 restrooms located right at the entrance. So it's a little bit weird, and the doors are always open, which I find even more weird, but super handy. The other thing we want to do is take a couple of polls in this session. So hopefully you all have your mobile devices. You can go to this session, which is SYN100, SYN100.
Yes.
Hopefully it's in your saved agenda, or you can just do a quick search in the Synergy app. And if you click on that, it'll bring you to an info screen, and there's a little tab at the top that says polls. So we're going to take a test poll here. So we want you to indulge us here. So which of these do you prefer? This is a single answer poll. Aman lives in Toronto, Canada.
Yes.
Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada. Yeah.
So which of these do you prefer? We have a Canadian out there. You're probably familiar with this then. Tim Hortons. This is famous for coffee and donuts. Ex-hockey player, started a chain of restaurants of sorts, based in Toronto, Canada, of all things. Here in Atlanta, Chick-fil-A, of course, is
really good.
Home of Chick-fil-A. I mean,
yes, of course.
I don't know if you guys have had the sweet tea. That stuff is liquid gold. Awesome. And then there's a third option for others. So this is the quick test poll. And then the other thing we're going to try to do is show live results. So this is going to be interesting.
Yes.
Magic. All right, what's happening here? All right, it looks like A is Tim Hortons, B is Chick-fil-A, and C is fast food is garbage. My body's a temple. Chick-fil-A is the winner here.
Chick-fil-A. Yeah. The biscuits, man. Really good.
Biscuits, all right. All right, good. You guys are on to the polling. You guys know how to
And they're up.
that.
They're up. They're not sleepy yet.
Yeah, well, we'll get you there. Okay, so let's get into it. Those are the test poll results. So I'm going to cover off, just for those who are, again, new to this Citrix Analytics, I'll touch on what the service is, and then we'll dive into it a little bit further. But with Citrix Analytics, we've been talking about this now for a couple of years, really. There are 3 big areas of focus in terms of what the solution is all about. It's a Citrix Cloud delivered service only. It's not available for download and install on premises. So Citrix Analytics resides in Citrix Cloud. And our first big use case is security. And that's really what we're focused on here in this session primarily, is all around the security use case. And the reason we're focused on that, one reason we're focused on it, is because that's what's in Citrix Workspace today. That's how you can start to leverage and use Citrix Analytics to get more value, more return on what you're doing with Workspace. So if you're considering Workspace, we really want to encourage you to take a look at Analytics. Again, your field teams will be probably on you a lot about Workspace, so we really want to highlight what's in there. We have instrumented all of our portfolio to provide input into Citrix Analytics, so it really spans the entire solution set here at Citrix. So this is really the thing that really ties everything together. Citrix Analytics is really one of the first products that's tying everything together. And what we're doing is bringing in events and information, applying machine learning to it, and teasing out compelling insights in the case of security that you haven't seen before. Or, as announced this morning, we're moving on to the next big use case in the middle there, performance, which I'll touch on in the end here. So in a very fancy PowerPoint slide, again, we're ingesting data from our portfolio, applying machine learning to it, and then importantly, being able to take action back in those events in the portfolio. So as we find security issues and insights, we can then act on those in either an automated or a manual fashion. So why do we focus on security so much? Well, certainly everyone has a lot to lose. This is the per capita cost by different industries for a data breach. And just highlighting the first two there, many Citrix customers are in these fields. So you see a lot of healthcare providers using Citrix environments, certainly financial services. Those are the two that have actually the most to lose in a data breach. So it's very costly, these breaches. The other thing we're seeing is ransomware is another kind of security issue that's just growing exponentially. We do have a way to capture and prevent a form of ransomware in conjunction with our content collaboration offering using Citrix Analytics. So again, just another data point, the cost of these incidents are really high. There's a real direct impact to the business, financial impact to the business with these security breaches. So we're very focused on trying to help remediate those as best we can.
Right.
So with that, I'm going to turn this over now to Aman.
Thank you, Blake. So the ransomware, malicious activities, all of those can be mitigated, diminished, obviously not completely taken out, through having right tools and systems in place, using your with a solid cyber security strategy. And a big module of that is security analytics. Within security analytics, today we want to talk about UEBA, which is user and entity behavior analysis. And the market definition, let's start with that. So analytics solution that baselines the behavior of users and entities across time and over and matched with other peer groups as well. So what this means is that we have a user. The user accesses few things through a device, accesses few files, few apps through a network, has an IP address. We form a profile of a user, right? For you. By the way, this data is with you. So I know before I even get into this, I have a lot of privacy concerns, right? And I want to say it out loud there that this data, only the metadata and the cloud plane is with us. The rest of the data is for the admins, the users' data. We don't get insights into your data. But we use some of that anonymous data to make our machine learning algorithms better. So what UEBA does is there's a profile for the user which gets created using understanding the behavior of how this user behaves normally. So that helps create a baseline that this is the normal user behavior. And then there are some anomalous activities, things that are way far away from the normal behavior of that user. And this normal behavior is different for every user. It doesn't have to align. Every user is not the same, and we get it. And that's why we learn the user and then baseline it and then move from that. There's a risk-based model embedded into our system. What that means is that it will continually evaluate the user real-time, the user's activities across networks, across the files they are trying to access, the data, the IP address, location, the identity and access that they use, multi-factor auth that they use, everything, the device posture, everything. We look at all of that, and we then, if there are malicious activities, we see if there are deviations and increase the risk in the risk-based model. Now here are a few names up on the screen of some of the players which play in the same market. Now we don't want to confuse them because this is very similar. Won't say similar, but I would say this is an adjacent field to SIEM. A lot of you have log management solutions from Splunk or Logarithm or any of those. And that takes me to my next question, which is a poll again. So that Tim Hortons poll that you did, or the Chick-fil-A, that was a warm-up. If you guys can be so kind to tell us if you use any of the Uber solutions today, not necessarily just the log management piece, but if you use any of these Logarithm, Splunk, UBA, Exabeam, SecurityNox, or any other, just to get a sense that do you guys even use a solution like this or not? All right, let me maybe switch displays.
Ready for the big reveal?
Cool. So obviously, Logarithm, Splunk seem pretty popular, and I see a lot of others as well. Yeah, it's a bit crowded out there. And let me walk you through what we offer and why is it an offering which distinguishes itself from the rest. Citrix Security Analytics, we look at it as a three-pronged approach. First is sense. So we sense what's going on, and by collecting the data. Well, sense is like, what are my senses? Where am I getting the feeds from, right? So I'm getting feeds from all sorts of different data points. We'll talk about the feeds, where they're coming from. And then we analyze that data using our machine learning algorithms, and we correlate the data collected from different vantage points. So why is it different to have different vantage points? In fact, actually the whole story is around having vantage points that are heterogeneous and are spread across. And using the data which is collected from a variety of sources around that user, our machine learning algorithm would further, again, look at the baseline of that user and see what is the deviation. And the last piece, which is also the unique, is respond. That is, we are the only ones that offer a closed-loop autonomous actions. Now, it's easier to say that we are the only one, but I will actually show you why we are the only one and why others cannot do that in a second. Just also wanted to say that these analytics capability is available for our on-prem as well as cloud customers. So whether you are on any of these hypervisors, hosted in any of these clouds, we will got your back. So why is Citrix Security Analytics any different? It's a pretty crowded field. Why do we feel we are different and we offer more value to you guys? First thing is that, sense, analyze, and respond. This guy is very active on the response, so I'm just going to stop him here for a second. So sense, analyze, and respond, like all these three things, not all the solutions out there can offer all the three. The challenge is that there are systems that can sense, that can do a lot of data digestion and come to a conclusion, but there are two issues with them. First, the data that they're looking at may not be super clean, right? And because the feeds that are coming from, they're reading up that data, users' feed from social media, or the health of the email address, and everything, some of it can be garbage, some of it could be relevant, and it is sifting through all of that. So through the decision matrix, the kind of confidence they have around the deductions that those solutions make, they're not very firm, and there are a lot of false positives and false negatives. We have a very clean feed of data from our Citrix's own products and response that we can do using Citrix Endpoint Management or Citrix files, like blocking access to the files, or through identity blocking all your logins, is something unique to us because we complete the loop. We sense a problem by analyzing the data that we gathered, and then we respond to it as well. So one thing I wanted to talk about, I talked about the heterogeneous sources, multiple vantage points. So I wanted to make sure that I make it clear what it actually means. So have you guys looked at different websites that sell cars? You can do a 3D swirl on those, look at the pictures of, well, don't actually have to look at the picture. You just use the tab, move around the vehicle, and you can see a 3D view of the whole car. Now, the way it is created is by stitching at least 10 to 15 different pictures taken from different angles, right? And then you get a 360-degree view. and they stitch it together. And those pictures are actually taken from different places. So those are different vantage points, right? Similarly, most of us in the room probably use a smartphone with Touch ID, right? Or Touch ID or some kind of a, fingerprint sensor. So when you tap your finger on it, it shows you that, hey, I got some information about your thumbprint, but keep doing that multiple times and do it on the sides, on the edges. Like what it is actually trying to do is get information from different angles, different vantage points, and to form a complete image around that finger and basically get a full impression of your thumb, right? And that's what we are trying to do about that user when we say heterogeneous sources, that we are trying to build a complete profile about that user from legitimate sources, but also using data, which is using a very clean feed. So obviously, Citrix has a few of those heterogeneous sources, and there are other sources as well. For example, Microsoft Graph Security. So while Citrix sources are listed up here on the top from virtual apps, desktops, content collaboration, endpoint management, and all these, we also integrate with Microsoft sources because we realize a lot of you out there also use Microsoft Azure AD or Office 365 or Windows Threat Defense. So getting a feed from that and then plugging it into the Citrix Analytics engine. And then obviously our machine learning algorithm takes that into account and then takes action. So again, we added more heterogeneous sources of information which are coming from different vantage points and then gives you much richer profile and context for that user. And again, actions can be taken via Citrix products, and a unique piece is all actions can also be recommended to the Microsoft product. So it's a bi-directional kind of a sync with Microsoft Graph, Security Graph. Currently, we have integrations with Azure AD ID Protection, as well as Windows Defender ATP. But very soon, we're going to have integrations with Office 365 and a lot of new stuff, which we will be talking about very soon. So, last poll, I promise. Do you guys use any Microsoft security offerings today? Any of these that I list here? One of the reasons I ask is that a lot of these, actually all of these, will be integrated into Citrix Analytics as well to actually, again, our commitment on making sure that your investments and the choices that you make, we take care of that, and we are able to provide you value on top of that. Let's see what we got. So so not a whole lot, but still about like 40% of, maybe more, 45% of you use these today. So, and these are fairly new. Graph offerings probably came out like a couple, maybe 3 years ago, not more than that, right? So, and they've become public APIs now. So good to know. There's a significant number of you using these. We're happy to announce we're already integrated. We are already integrated with a few of these, and we will be integrating with a lot of these going forward. So a lot of talk now. I wanted to show you some, an actual demo of the product going forward. So hoping the demo gods like us today. So here we have the demo environment.
Hang on 1 second.
Sorry.
Are we?
Oh, it didn't show? Plug it out and plug it in.
Oh, we've got support coming. 911 is coming up the aisle.
911. Mayday, mayday.
No, I think it's good. It's probably just speaker incompetence.
Oh, you got to remove it from the end show or something like that, right? No. Actually, just go back. End show.
Oh, but you want to go to the demo, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Are you sure?
Yep. And then go back to
Safari.
Still not?
No,
Oh.
because. We're going to drag this over here.
There we go.
Thank you. When you send the marketing guy to do the AV check, bad things happen.
All right, so my cursor.
All right,
needs
now
to
you gotta
go-
look down.
I got it, okay. Okay, so back to where we were. Security. So you see 3 tabs here, security, performance, operations. Back to the initial slide that Blake showed around 3 different
Use case solutions.
use cases that we have within the analytics. One is security, second is around the performance and operations. Today, what is live is security, and performance is in preview, as you saw in the state today, and later on you'll see around operations as well. Okay. So you see, there are different risk profiles, high risk profile, there's a medium risk profile, there's low. I have some users which are on watch list. I can see the users which are risky, and at the top most risky users listed down there. I can obviously click on see more and see more of those. But let's look at the user Georgina, whose risk score is 99. So I'm going to look at this user and see what's going on. So first things first, this user had some kind of data exfiltration that happened. I tap on that. There were 10 potential data exfiltration attempts that happened between May 8th, and data was copied, printed, downloaded. Could be sensitive data, and I've got logs on each of those, like detailed logs on what files were accessed, what information, what kind of file types were accessed during this. There were unusual logons, applications that she didn't use, has never used before. So back to the point that I made, that unusual behavior, moving away from the baseline. But these are still medium risk. Even a normal user can click on apps that they've never clicked before, right? But then there are authentication failures happening as well. Another medium risk, like we can fat finger a lot of times our password, so that can happen too. But excessive access to sensitive files as well, right? But now when we look take all of these into consideration, right, coming from different products, different services, this is telling me that yes, all of these in isolation may not be as risky or telling me something, but when I put all of them together, I definitely see something's going on. Right? I see she's downloading, again, a lot of files, large downloads, EPA failures, a jailbroken or a rooted device. That's a very high risk. So this is coming from mobile endpoint management. That different device IDs that she's trying to authenticate, and these devices are already deemed as jailbroken. And yeah, you can see a lot of other things happening. Let me show you. So these are a lot of Citrix-driven data points that you saw. We have another user, Kevin Smith, here. And when I look at this user, I see, again, a lot of things going on. I don't want to go into all of those. But what I really want to see here is, let's see. Yeah.
Kevin, I think, is the good one for.
Yeah.
Those external ones, like the anonymous IP address might be going in there.
Yeah,
That's
there
a
you
good
go.
one,
Yeah, so you look at this process privilege escalation due to the kernel exploit. And this is not a Citrix alert. This is actually external. When I look at it, it's actually coming from Azure AD. This is anonymous IP address. This is also coming from Azure AD ID protection. So this is the third-party integration. Like, we are getting sources from other places as well. Let me actually now look at the whole user profile. So when I look at that, I see from the map view, this user is accessing from all over the world, right? And that's also one of the reasons why I would be worried. Why is this user everywhere, right? I look at the devices, and then I see, yeah, this user's got a couple devices. That's okay. He's downloaded, a few files, uploaded a few. But I can, like, in a click of a button, take actions on it, like what I really want to do on this user as a shortcut. If I want to look at, what are, where the information is coming from. So I talked about vantage points, different heterogeneous sources. So here are all the sources that the data is coming from. So you see access control, content collaboration, endpoint management, this network gateway, virtual apps and desktop, graph security, and Active Directory. These are the external sources that we have currently integrated with. And below that, you also see the data export. I know a lot of you also use Splunk and logarithms and other solutions as your SIMs for your event management and alert monitoring and stuff. So we can also provide a clean feed of data to them as well. And we're going to talk about a little bit more later on those as well. So one last thing is around the policies. So these policies that you see, like some of them already exist, you can also create those, right? That what could be the indicators that matter to you. And you don't want to track others, but you want to track a few indicators. Similarly, you can also create policies here and say, I want to create a new policy with a new indicator that I just created, and then choose what could be the trigger. So this is a very flexible system in how you sense it, how you analyze it, and how you respond to those threats. All right, I think that's all I had on the demo side. And then Blake, walk us through what's new.
Yeah, thanks, Aman. That was great.
Thanks. Right.
I'll walk us through some of the other goodies that we've actually been working on over the last year. Many of you have probably seen some of that demo before and are familiar with some of the things that we've done in the security side, but there's been a lot of work over the last year in terms of adding some compelling new items. So,
Only this one, maybe?
try this one.
I'll do it for you.
Okay, thanks. As we saw, the Microsoft Graph Security API integration, so that's ingesting events from Microsoft, and those events that you saw from the user Kevin Smith, that's the actual Microsoft security alert that comes directly into us. That's their verbiage and alert that gets packaged up, and we connect through their API and ingest that data and blend it into our data to provide a nice rich profile of in that case, Kevin Smith. We also mentioned the round trip part, being able to take actions back in our portfolio. That's available today. We're working with Microsoft right now on a relatively new area that they announced at the RSA conference this year, which is their Actions API. So that part of it we're still in development with, but the ability to, as we find out things about our users and we want to take action back in the Microsoft portfolio, we'll be using their Actions API. The second part here, if you hit the click button, we just talked about SIM integration with Splunk. So a lot of security operations centers are using SIMs. They've standardized on that. They love Citrix Analytics, but don't want a new screen in their SOC, so we can export out our risk indicators, packaged up risk indicators into the SIM. So this is nice for our Splunk users. A lot of our customers that come in that use Splunk love it, but typically the way that their cost structure is that they charge by the amount of data that's stored. So they don't want just a huge pipe of data coming into Splunk from Citrix Analytics. Just a few key risk indicators really helps reduce sort of the footprint there. And this is something that's brand new. We talked about it this morning, but the third big wheel to all this on the security front is integration with identity providers, specifically with ping identity. And Aman and I were talking about this as we were rehearsing for this session. And, well, first, I know what you're thinking. Did these guys actually rehearse the session? That's kind of surprising. But we were actually rehearsing. And Aman, you had a good point, which is these identity providers have all the machinery to do authentication and the mechanics to actually log people in. What they're missing, though, is context. So if I'm a brand new user and I'm logging in, they don't know anything about me. If we can actually take those risk scores from Citrix Analytics and bring them into an identity provider, now they have some context about who the user is. And based on that context, based on that risk indicator, you know, the people who score 90 to 100, those really high risk folks, maybe we'll have the identity provider like Ping go through, you know, add additional barriers to entry, if you will. Maybe multi-factor authentication for Blake Cannell because he looks a little sketchy based on his risk score. So adding that contextual access is really, really interesting. So this is, again, something that's really relatively new or a recent development here with Citrix Analytics. In terms of SYN integration, we saw this on the slide, but one of the nice things about Citrix Analytics, as I always tell people, this is not a big data project. This is not, I need to really dig into Hadoop and learn all about that and then start coding in R, and that, this is not that. If that's what you're looking for, frankly, Citrix Analytics is not that. It's really just trying to make this really easy, turn these things on and deliver results. So turning on the Splunk integration is as simple as adding another data resource in Analytics. You toggle the on-off data flow button, and if you hit the down button here, we bring you through a quick 3-step wizard that sets up the process in terms of being able to export out to Splunk in the format that they need, some Python script or something that gets developed here and is a very common practice on the Splunk side in terms of how they do integration. So really easy to set that up. Now, while I said that we don't do a lot of heavy R coding and you're doing your own analysis here, people still want to do a little bit of customization. So we've added some self-service analytics and search into Citrix Analytics. So you have access to all of the sort of different widgets, if you will, across Citrix Analytics, drop-down boxes, check boxes. You can very easily set up your own queries to dive into things as you wish. So you do have access to most everything in Citrix Analytics through the self-service analytics. And this is something else in terms of, again, the session is titled the ROI of improving ROI in your workspace with analytics. This is one of the other sort of unsung heroes of analytics that we don't talk enough about probably. In Citrix Workspace Standard Edition, which comes with Citrix Access Control, you also get analytics with that. So you're getting Citrix Analytics as part of that entry-level SKU, if you will, or that sort of starter SKU for Workspace. And with access control, it's the ability to control access to your secure web and SaaS applications, but you also get a whole pile of analytics. So in the security section, not just the user tab, the sub-tab that we've been kind of focused on, but if you look at user access and app access, you get this whole bunch of analytics around usage in terms of what domains they're going to, how much data they're uploading and downloading from their SaaS and web applications. Right. And again, you're getting sort of that red, yellow, green, risk indicators of potentially malicious domains that people might be hitting or not. So lots of good stuff there.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you go to the next. So lots of goodies we've added into to analytics. I just want to touch on the performance side of it. So if we build this out pretty rapidly, and we'll stay on the slide after you build it out here. We've talked a lot over the last couple of years about security, and one more click, you'll see that we've now sort of enabled finally this second big tab called performance. By the way, also here at this event, we're talking a little bit about productivity analytics as well, and I'll show you where you can learn more about that. But we're really starting to round out the whole portfolio of analytics. So one of the things that we're doing with the performance analytics, this is initially geared towards virtual apps and desktops. So for Workspace Premium Plus customers who have access and entitlement to virtual apps and desktops, this would be something that would apply to folks with virtual apps and desktops. We're doing multi-site aggregation, so we're tying in all the different CVAD sites or virtual apps and desktop sites together. And really what we're creating are quantifiable user experience scores. So just like we have the user risk scores, we're doing user experience scores in a similar kind of fashion. And of course, we're providing end-to-end visibility across your environment and tools for faster troubleshooting. And as we saw this morning, this is what the screen would look like. So instead of security, we hit the performance tab. And again, we're looking at users in our environment. We have 650 users. 500 of them are in sort of getting excellent performance, 100 fair, 50 or poor, which is, of course, a concern. 80 users have kind of moved up into a better user experience score. And you can also see the sites. We've just picked Citrix locations Fort Lauderdale, Raleigh, and others, but aggregating the sites together. And so we want to drill down on the 50 poor users. You can drill into there and you'll see that what are the factors that are causing some of this poor performance. Things like login duration, the ICA real-time telemetry, so the ICA protocol maybe is causing some problems. And you can see as we look below there, some GPOs, some group policies, maybe causing some issues, and to the right it sort of provides some possible root causes in terms of, of those 50 users, what the issues are. And we can also drill down into specifically who those users are and what the impact is to them. So today, out of the box, when we first go out to market with this, we're going to build in our own performance metrics. But over time, what we'll be doing is enabling the machine learning to determine what is good performance in your specific environment and model that and then use that to determine these scores. So we're getting towards the end of our formal talk here. So just a couple of things. Certainly the surveys, the end of Thursday, we encourage you to take a look at those. All the sessions will be available on demand. So if you feel like you're missing out on something, don't worry, you'll be able to catch it later on demand. And you can download presentations. This is super important for Blake and Aman. This is what we get judged on and whether or not we can actually come back next year. So I highly encourage you to rate the session and play Game On as well.
Yes.
Some hashtags for you. Probably should have done that at the beginning of the session. Yes. But this is what's really important. So again, let's talk about a few things. The first one on the top here is Synergy 403. That's actually a fireside chat. Gopi's here in the audience. He's going to be delivering a fireside chat with Preeti from Microsoft. So we actually have a Microsoft co-speaker or co-fireside chat person with Gopi. That's tomorrow. I encourage you to do that. If you want to know more about the performance analytics side, that is both tomorrow and on Thursday. So that repeats, that SYN100 repeats. If you are heavy on, I want to learn much more about this machine learning stuff, obviously SYN100 is good for you. Also SYN202 under the hood with Citrix Analytics. Dr. Jim Regetz is here. He's one of our deep algorithm folks behind the machine learning. He's great, great speaker. He always has very awesome talking points and throws out some good knowledge there. And then also Pons is here. We have a security talk. So if you want to dive even more into security, we have a couple of security experts. Pons and Martin are going to do the analytics security, sort of more of a deep dive than what you've sort of touched on here. And then finally, I'm with the Georgia State Lottery in another fireside chat as well, just talking to a customer who's actually starting to look at this and implementing this. So that's kind of a quick run through of at least the key analytics sessions for now.
All right.
I think that's it for the formal talk.
We'll take questions.
Yeah, questions if you have them. Microphones in the middle of the aisle. Don't knock each other over to get to them. Take your time.
Just a quick question on how it works under the hood. Does it use heuristic scanning at all to sort of cut down on some of the processor and system usage, or is it just all machine learning and AI completely?
From the performance side, you mean, right?
Yeah, performance or just in general. Does it use heuristics or definition-based scanning?
It is a mix of all. Like yes. So machine learning is just the added thing that we do on top of it. So every other information that we're collecting, the known bad actors, the NIST reporting of what is the baseline that every device should be, any signatures that we are getting of any malicious files on a device, all of those are anyways embedded into it. But beyond that, the machine learning further adds extra flavor that whether you can really distinguish between like a medium threat but like 5 of them coming from different sources, and now this is more severe because this is something else which is going on, which we have to look into. From the performance side, we only support today Citrix virtual apps and desktops. Not to say it won't be extended to other products, but for virtual apps and desktops, yes, you can. All of that is included. Yeah.
Cool. And then just one other question, if you don't mind. Have you caught any zero-day attacks?
Zero-day attacks?
Yeah,
Yes.
as in there's no definition file. It's never been seen before.
Yes.
It's a zero-day.
Yes. So again, so zero-day attacks, like the idea is to detect those. I'm not sure if we have any threat intelligence. We do. So we have Pons, the product manager here, who says that yes, we have zero-day. Pons, would you like to maybe say a couple of words on that? Yes, we're going to put you on spot.
Putting Pons on the spot. You can use that microphone right there in the middle. Yeah, there we go.
The question is around the zero-day attacks. The biggest difference would be, unlike the traditional attacks where you have indicators of compromise, where you have a visibility, but when it comes to a zero-day attack, it's all about the behaviors, right?
Right.
That's a uniqueness what we have. So unlike the traditional security analytics, they all work based on the system-generated signals like a syslog and netflow, but we have a unique play around the behavioral differences that you can learn and understand only if you have a, the behavioral-based analytical system. Basically, that's what we do. And my session, SYN100, I'll be talking more on that as well.
That's very cool. Yeah. Okay, awesome. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, 2 good sessions for you. Yeah, the under the hood session and the SYN200 for the deeper dive on security would be great for those questions. And again, yeah, if you really are interested in kind of getting under about the machine learning part of it, it's great to actually have Dr. Regas here, because he'll be great to sort of touch on their philosophy and how they actually iterate on these algorithms and update them as they learn more.
More questions?
All right, well, thank you very much for coming out. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of Synergy.
All right, thank you.